The cabin lights flickered softly as passengers began to board Flight 728 from New York to Dallas. The air was thick with travel fatigue, people dragging carry-ons, shuffling down the narrow aisle, eager to find their seats and settle in. It was a packed flight. Overhead bins were already filling up fast. Among the crowd, one passenger stood out, not because she was loud, flashy, or demanding, but because of her quiet confidence. She was Nia Johnson, a 17-year-old African-American girl with long, neat braids, dressed in a simple gray hoodie and jeans. Her headphones were around her neck, and her eyes scanned the row numbers calmly. It was her first time flying alone, and though she felt a few butterflies in her stomach, she moved with grace. "Excuse me, could you help me find space for my bag?" she asked a nearby flight attendant. But the woman, Brenda, stern-faced and clearly irritated, looked Nia up and down, then replied sharply, "You should have checked it. Next time, follow the rules." Surprised by the hostility, Nia blinked, unsure what she had done wrong. Brenda leaned in closer and hissed, "Don't cause trouble. Sit down and stay quiet." But what Brenda didn't know was that Nia carried something far more powerful than attitude: discipline, strength, and legacy. She was the granddaughter of Master Nia Johnson, a 9th-degree black belt in karate. And Nia? She was a black belt too. 30 minutes into the flight, the cabin had settled into a quiet rhythm. The hum of the engine, the occasional ding of a seatbelt sign, and the soft shuffle of drink carts filled the air. But one thing remained unchanged: the tension between Brenda and Nia. The flight attendant passed by Nia's row several times, each time giving her a cold, pointed stare. Other passengers began to notice, sensing the unspoken friction. Before she could finish her stretch, Brenda appeared, her voice sharp. "I said sit down. You think rules don't apply to you?" Nia looked up, her tone even and respectful. "I just need to stretch for a few seconds. It helps my knee." Brenda crossed her arms. "I don't care if you're a ballerina. Sit down now." A man across the aisle leaned forward. "She's not hurting anyone." Brenda shut him down with a hand gesture. Nia slowly sat back down, unshaken. She had been training in karate since she was 5. Her grandfather taught her one rule above all: power is nothing without control. And today, she chose control. Later in the flight, the cabin was quiet. Lights dimmed as passengers dozed off or watched movies. Nia, careful not to disturb anyone, stood up again. This time to use the restroom. Her knee had started to tighten up again, and she needed a brief walk. As she made her way back to her seat, she found Brenda blocking the aisle with the service cart. "Excuse me," Nia said politely. Brenda didn't budge. Instead, she gave a smug look and shoved the cart forward, narrowly missing Nia's shin. A sharp metal corner came dangerously close. Several passengers turned their heads. That's when things took a sharp turn. Brenda raised her voice loud enough for the entire cabin to hear. "That's it. I've had enough of your attitude. I'm reporting you to the captain. You're a safety risk." Gasps rippled through the rows. A mother in the back shook her head in disbelief. A businessman in first class pulled back the curtain, curious. Nia stood her ground. "With all due respect," she said calmly but firmly, "I haven't disobeyed a single rule, and I know my rights." Brenda smirked, arms folded. "What do you know about respect?" Bad move. What Brenda didn't realize, Nia had been raised to command respect not with volume, but with truth and strength. Just then, a jolt of turbulence shook the entire plane. Passengers gripped their armrests. Gasps echoed through the cabin as a loud pop came from an overhead bin above row 3. In an instant, a heavy carry-on bag burst out of the compartment, plummeting straight toward a young child seated with his mother. But before anyone could scream, Nia moved. Fast. Like a flash, she lunged forward, her body reacting on instinct. With one hand, she caught the falling bag mid-air, twisting her body as she dropped into a low defensive stance, knees bent, one arm forward, the other clutching the bag tightly. The entire cabin went silent for a moment, then erupted in gasps and applause. Brenda stood frozen, her eyes wide, mouth agape. A man nearby asked, "Wait, are you trained or something?" Still calm, Nia stood up slowly and replied with quiet confidence, "I've practiced karate my whole life. My grandfather taught me. He was a grand master." Brenda's face turned red with embarrassment. An elderly woman clapped, pointing at the child. "She just saved that boy's life." Moments later, the captain was informed, not about any disturbance, but about Nia's heroic act. A flight supervisor emerged from the cockpit. After hearing the full story, he personally thanked Nia and assured her, "We'll be reviewing this incident closely, including how our staff handled it." When Flight 728 touched down in Dallas, the drama in the skies was far from over. Unbeknownst to Nia, a fellow passenger had recorded the entire moment she caught the falling bag and stood her ground against the flight attendant. The video, posted with the caption, "This flight attendant tried to bully the wrong girl. She's a karate black belt and a hero," went viral overnight. Within hours, the clip had been shared across social media platforms. News outlets picked up the story, calling Nia the calm karate hero. Comments poured in praising her bravery, humility, and how she handled everything with maturity far beyond her years. Brenda, the flight attendant, was pulled aside upon landing and questioned by airline supervisors. Days later, the airline released an official statement. "We deeply regret the treatment Miss Johnson experienced and thank her for her quick thinking, which prevented a serious incident on board." As for Nia, she quietly collected her carry-on, smiled at the ground crew, and walked out of the terminal like any other passenger. In a brief interview later that week, she was asked if she was angry. Nia smiled and replied, "My grandfather always said, real strength is calm. I didn't need to fight. I just had to be myself." And with that, millions were inspired.